Hey everybody, Dean Kulawira, IT recruiter at SRA Staffing. Hope everybody's having a great week. Whether you're in job search mode or not, hope the week's going off to a great start. So just wanted to do a quick video today to discuss a topic which might be of interest to some of you, or I guess a topic that a lot of us might go through at some point in our careers, right? But before I get to that, just a reminder: I released an article yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday evening. It's called Key Questions to Ask Yourself Before the Interview. So this was to kind of build on a couple of posts I put last week regarding motivation, right? Feeling motivated about a role. And my argument is that, look, it's great to feel motivated and excited about a role or opportunity, but if that's all you have, you know, it could all fall apart when you're at the interview. So what you need to do is have a logical foundation, right? Like a logical list of reasons why you're the top number one candidate for the role, right? And so what I discussed in the article is a couple of questions you as a starting point, a couple of questions as a starting point to ask yourself to help you kind of have those facts and figures down as to why you're the ideal candidate for the role. And if you tie that into being excited and motivated, hey, that's going to give you a definite advantage, right? So if you haven't read the article, I'll post the link down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put it in the description. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, I'll post it in the comments. So be sure to check it out if you haven't read it. And tell me what you think. Am I not being reasonable by saying motivation and feeling excited is not a big deal? Or do you agree with what I'm saying, like in terms of, do you need actual data to support yourself or to sell yourself on why you're the ideal candidate for the role? Anyway, let me know. Read the article if you haven't done so. Let me know what you think. And for those of you who have read and those of you who have been interacting with my videos, my posts, my content, I get a lot of thank you messages on LinkedIn, which I really appreciate. So I'm definitely going to keep putting out all this job search related content to help all of you in your job search. So moving along. So I got a great inquiry from a candidate who called me today. So basically the situation is she's trying to get into IT, right? So she recently took some studies or education in IT. So she was in a kind of a different type of a role or industry before, and she wants to get into IT in a specific area of IT. And her question was, look, Dean, I took my courses, I got the IT education, the relevant classes and the certifications or the diploma or whatnot. How do I go in for an interview and I don't have previous IT experience in this particular type of role? How do I sell myself? Like how do I have a potential employer or recruiter take me seriously for the role that I'm interviewing for if I don't have experience in that role before, right? Does that hopefully that makes sense to all of you watching? But basically it is what it is, right? Like she's asking, she's saying that I was in a totally different type of role before. It wasn't IT. It wasn't entirely IT, and I'm trying to get into IT in a particular niche within IT, right? So how do I do that? How do I sell myself at an interview? How do I explain that I do have the skill sets necessary to get into the role? So now, even for those of you who might not be in that situation, maybe you've been in IT for a while, there probably will come a point where you're interested or applying for a role that you haven't really covered extensively prior to that previously in your career, right? Maybe it's a new tool set you got to work with, a new technology, a new type of project, a new platform, something of that sort. So I'm going to share with you my advice that I gave to her, and you can kind of make that parallel, right, for whatever your particular situation is, and use that and use the advice I'm about to give, and you can apply it to your job search, if not immediately, of course, at some point in the future, right? So what I asked her next was, I was like, okay, great, I understood what her situation was. I said, okay, great. Now your most recent position that you were on, what similarities were there between those positions you were at previously and what similarities does it have with the type of roles that you're about to get into in IT? So then she says, oh, well, you know, there's this. And I was like, okay, great. And what else? And she said, oh, well, I do this. I was doing this, which is very similar to this for this particular type of roles in IT. And also I did, XYZ, which was very similar to the XYZ and, the IT roles I'm interested in. So I said, great. So and as I'm asking asking her to go through these, I can tell she's kind of understanding what I'm getting at. And I said, look, you probably get what I'm getting at by asking you this, but what I want you to focus on and what you need to focus on is the similarities between what you were doing before versus what you're about to get into in IT, like whatever the field that you're trying to get into. So instead of worrying about the differences and what you don't have, make a side-by-side comparison about the similarities, right? Like what were you doing previously at the previous role that is very transferable to the role that you're interested in IT. Now, in your particular situation, for those of you watching this, you need to sit down and obviously do that. Obviously, I can't do that, right? But you should be able to see similarities between what you were doing before and the types of roles that you want to get into. Now, in the case where there's a huge disparity in those differences, you can still find some kind of a similarity, unless it's like a total night and day kind of a difference. So that was my suggestion to this particular job seeker who called me in, and she kind of took that, and I'm pretty sure that she's going to go ahead and make those comparisons so that she can really present herself and sell herself successfully for another role moving forward. Simply because she's showing, okay, this is what I did in the past, these are the types of projects I did, these were my daily tasks, responsibilities, etc., that are very similar to the types of roles that I want to get into in IT. And again, making that comparison, right? So if you can show that it's very, like what you were doing before was very similar to what you're expected to do in the forthcoming or the new role that you're interviewing for, I mean, what argument is there that you can't take on the role, right? I mean, the only thing would probably be, okay, you haven't worked with this specific tool or this specific platform or something of that sort. It's going to be just those little details left over, right? Because if you're doing something that's very similar in terms of processes, people, teams, applications, whatever it is, if you can show those similarities, I want you to focus on the similarities. And actually on your resume, you should probably highlight those similarities as well, right? When you're applying for the role, kind of re-cater your resume. I'm not saying to misrepresent yourself. I'm not saying to change up what you were doing before. What I'm saying is to highlight those parts of your previous positions or the current position you're at, which is very similar to the type of role that you're applying for, moving forward, right? So again, focus on the similarities. That being said, do take note of any differences, because I want you to anticipate those as possible objections at the interview, right? Because I don't want you to go in only looking at the similarities and then they're going to ask you something about the differences and you're going to be like, whoa, Dean didn't tell me about that, right? So make sure you take note of the differences as well and anticipate how you're going to respond to those. And even those differences, I'm sure if you really sit down and think about it, you can come up with great responses as to how you can handle those differences. Let's say it's a specific tool you haven't worked with, right? So there's usually two ways I tell candidates to handle a question at an interview when the interviewer or the recruiter or the hiring manager asks you about a specific tool set or a technology that you're not familiar with. So one of two scenarios, right? The first scenario is you haven't worked with a specific tool, but you've worked with similar tools. So so how you sell that is you go back, you think back to those similar tools you've used in the past, you explain to them if needed what the tool is, what functions it accomplished, what it did, all of that. Show how it's very similar to the tools that they're using or whatever tool they're using. And again, it shows that it's a very transferable skill set, right? That way, okay, I it's like saying, yeah, I used this pen in the past and you guys use this pen, so this is very similar to this one, so I can use this pen. My Worthy pens. I used those pens in a previous video as well for those of you who watched it. But hopefully that makes sense and you get the idea. Now, second scenario is you don't have any experience with a similar tool or any tool similar to what they're kind of expecting for the role. So in that scenario, think back to a time in the past when you were on a previous project, a previous company, whatever the case, where you had to work with a brand new tool or technology or whatever the case, and you had no previous experience with a similar whatever it is, right? But you were able to pick it up. You took the initiative to pick it up, learn about it, read about it, and implement it. So you can then argue that, look, I was in a similar situation at a previous company. They were using this XYZ, whatever it is, and I was able to do this to pick it up and learn about it. I took the initiative, I implemented it, and I can provide that company as a stellar reference. They'll tell you exactly how I went about it and what I did, and they'll tell you, how happy they were at the end of the day with my work regarding that project. So if you have a reference who can do that, you can always say that. Or if not, you can just say that you were able to get the project done. You were able to pick up on, even though it was based on a platform or a tool, etc., that you weren't familiar with. You were able to overcome it. You went through with it. You did it. You accomplished it. You delivered it, and everything was handy dandy, right? If that's the case, so that way you can argue for, look, I was in a similar situation in the past. I was at a company and I had to work with something I had no previous experience with and no similar experience with. However, I was able to accomplish it, and I can do the same thing with you at your company, right? So that's the way you can handle that inquiry, right? So again, prepare for the differences, but focus on the similarities. Prepare for the differences, right? So the differences might be potential objections or something they're going to raise and say, hey, you don't have this. So be prepared to respond to that, whatever those differences might be. So that's my video tip for today. I hope that was helpful for those of you out there watching. And I think that's about it. Nothing else to add about that. If there's any particular topics you want me to discuss, don't hesitate in letting me know. I get a lot of messages and phone calls from people thanking me for the job search tips and advice and the content and the videos, so I really appreciate those of you taking the time to let me know. I'll definitely keep the content coming through, and I'm trying to do more of these videos. I used to do it only Wednesdays and Fridays. I'm trying to do it more frequently now. Still working on the subtitle thing. It's just a time factor. I don't know. Apparently I had to type out the subtitles and then upload it as a separate file to the video or something of that sort. So I'm just trying to figure out, because it is a bit time consuming to type out all this stuff, watch the video again. But I'm giving you excuses, which I shouldn't be, but I will work on that. I'll definitely try to get that done for all of you, so you can have text there. Maybe you're at work, you don't want to listen, you don't want to be seen listening, with your headphones on, or maybe you just find my voice annoying, right? So I'll definitely try my best to get that done. Other than that, I hope everybody's having a great week. Roles I'm working on, looking for Java developers. I have some .NET developer roles. Those will probably be the hottest ones. Also, again, looking for Salesforce developers, people from all levels, junior, intermediate, or senior. These are full-time permanent positions. I know a lot of you on the Salesforce development side, I know a lot of you are contractors. So if you happen to know anyone who's on the market for full-time work, definitely let me know. Or if you're considering moving from contract to full-time, let me know. I'll do my best to help you. If you're a junior candidate, you have to have at least 1 to 2 years, ideally 2 years experience in hands-on Salesforce development. And that's about it. Again, thanks so much for watching. Do make sure you like, share, comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. And I'll probably put out another video by tomorrow. I'm trying to do it more frequently, as mentioned. So that's about it. I'm gonna let you guys go, and hope you have a great rest of the day. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks so much, and have a great night. Bye.